there could be things the fiscal policy could do. There could be tax increase or reduction in tax. These are fiscal measures to counterbalance. And this is what you get when everybody is in sync. The CBN is managing monetary policy of the Nigerian economy, not a different, not CBN economy. This first finance ministry is managing the fiscal policy of the Nigerian economy, not the Ministry of Finance economy. So the unifying factor there is Nigeria. Consultation, so that to even put them on notice. Just be aware, look at what we are doing so that I don't read it like us on the pages of the newspapers.
Amechi, good morning. Amechi, good morning. Good morning, listener. Maybe you have a portfolio issue. Before 2019, we had the Ministry of Finance and we have the Ministry of Budget and National Planning. During the Okoje-Iweala second term Jonathan government, she became Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy. This time, we have Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning. We didn't see an addition of Coordinating Minister of the Economy. If there was a portion of the portfolio that says she's the Coordinating Minister of the Economy, we know that what Teve is saying, the economic team automatically she will be the chairman of the economic team. But we know the president has the economic advisory team headed by what's his name now? Doyin Salami. Professor Doyin Salami. And one would have thought that this team had once raising eyebrow that the CBN governor did not consult the economic advisors. Be that as it
or the president did not consult them before giving approval. Because they advise the president.
Yes, the president has appointed the Minister of Finance to act on his behalf. All ministers act on behalf of the president.
Absolutely.
And if the minister is saying she was not consulted, I think there is an error there. I mean, she might not be saying she was not aware, but she's saying she was not consulted. Because you know, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Finance and Budget National Planning is a board member of the CBN. Automatically, the PAMSEC, who's the custodian of the ministry, or the scribe of the ministry, or the administrative head of the ministry,
representing the Ministry of Finance.
Yes, is aware.
What's the reason behind including PAMSEC, Minister of Finance, in the board of CBN?
Because PAMSEC
to be the eye and ears,
yes,
so
of
that
the ministry.
If there are monetary policy issues that needs counterbalance for fiscal policy, he brings it back to the ministry.
So, but we know, I'm aware that the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Finance had retired, a woman, I've forgotten her name, and in the last 2-3 weeks, I think they're trying to bring in someone else. Probably that new person acting as Minister of PAMSEC in Finance Ministry has not settled down.
There's an acting PAMSEC.
And probably she didn't follow, or he didn't follow the discussion.
Somebody acting. There should be,
because the redesign of the Naira,
there should be an acting PAMSEC. Even when they go on leave, there's an acting PAMSEC.
The redesign of
the most senior director.
The redesign of the Naira is not an overnight thought. Yes. They've been discussing it. So probably whoever was there as PAMSEC didn't inform the minister. That is if
the issue was raised at a meeting of the board of the
CBN.
That's another conjecture.
The minister, in her words, I was not consulted. She didn't say, I am not aware. Those are two different words.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we should be able to get it right, what she's trying to say. But the president has come out to say, okay, I'm aware the CBN governor can go on. But the question persons are asking is the timing. I mean, you don't forget, next year, we have the 2023 election. Next year, we also have census. And next year, you are asking people to mop up, to bring out their money and submit. Well, the timing might be wrong. But I said here before, I said, whenever the idea comes into a leader, even if it's the 11th hour, even if it's May 28th, an idea comes to the president to execute a project that will be beneficial to Nigeria, he should go ahead. Yeah. Because that is why we elected him, to bring changes, positive changes to the economy. If we feel, the CBN feels that this will be an avenue to address corruption and looting or whatever, they should go ahead. We're supporting
but you know there's a difference between consultation and being aware. Being aware, by reading it on the paper, she's already aware. The minister is already aware. But was she briefed on it? That's a consultation.
I can send a letter.
That's another thing.
I can send you information. You will see it, which has to do with something like this. You will see it as my leader. You will see it as my head, or maybe you are head of a current affairs in DA. You see that information. You will not act on it, but you know very well that this is an information that you should have been told. You are aware that CBN want to redesign. But did they say, Amechi, how do you feel about this? Probably that's her own quarrel. Did you ask me how I feel about this? No. You only told me, okay, you want to do this.
Now, is the CBN governor or the CBN represented in the economic advisory team?
No. I didn't see CBN there. But there should be there.
Those advising the president, is the CBN represented there? Is the Minister of Finance represented in the economic advisory team? Because they are supposed to be there.
The membership, Professor Doyin Salami, you have Dr. Mohammed Sagagi, you have Professor Ode Ojowu.
Ode.
You have Dr. Shehu Yahaya, you have Dr. Iyabo Masha.
The institutions.
Yes, you have Professor Chukuma Soludo. They are all members. So the vice chairman is Dr. Mohammed Sagagi.
Are there institutions getting representations in the advisory team?
Well, ordinarily, the monetary policy, the economic team should involve the CBN and the finance ministry and the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, because they handle affairs that have to do with the economy.
They have one role or the other.
In order to play.
So somehow they are, well, during the Obasanjo regime, he holds economic consultations. The CBN is always represented, Minister of Finance and all these other institutions represented. During the Jonathan regime, it also economic management team. It also followed suit. The emphasis is to harvest. We are talking about the largest economy in Africa, and Teve, for any import, yes, the CBN has the right to redesign the currency, no doubt. Nobody is quarreling with that, but the networking, the system in operation, is it one that we took full advantage of in arriving at this decision?
The question, I think, the question we should, which we already know the answer, is whether that framework, that structure you are talking about exists in the first place.
Yes, and if it doesn't exist, there's a problem.
There is a vacuum, and that is why we're having, what we have. Besides this, it also is also affecting security. We'll get to that eventually. Besides the Presidential Advisory Economic Council, as it were, that Bulu has just talked about, recall that in September, when the inflation rate was running haywire and all of that, the president said what he called the committee on presidential committee on the national economy, and he's the chairman. The CBN governor is part of that committee. The Minister of Finance, budget, they are also part of that committee. And we were happy here that at least there is some form of an economic team that
convergence.
But the problem is the president is the chairman. Will he have the time to see
that is
every now and then?
Is it that the president did not activate all these institutions for input and advice? The purpose of setting up these institutions is for guidance, for them to provide guidance to the president. If I'm the president and the CBN comes with this request for approval, there are those that will consult. And key among them is the Minister of Finance.
Amechi, I've told you.
Is it an error if that is so on the part of the president?
Amechi, if you go to the President Buhari today and you mention anything fighting corruption, I can tell you that you will possibly not, think more than twice.
Now, is that not a problem? I was at the State House of Abuja for almost 20 years, for almost 10 years. I covered 3 presidents. So I understand, to my limits of my knowledge, how the presidency works. I have seen situations where some persons will approach the president and want to browbeat the president to taking a quick decision. And if the president does not put his feet down and consult widely, they run into this problem. Presidents have run into this problem. They'll show you documents, Mr. President, this. The next thing you sign. I take Obasanjo as a reference. If that happens, I will be at the State House. I will see one minister running like he's late for school. If you want to grace, I want to see the president. The president has summoned him because the president wants him put on that matter before an immediate action is taken. So the essence of putting the cabinet is for them to advise the president. Did the president take advantage of that institutional mechanism established by the Constitution to guide him in taking critical decisions?
Amechi, as it is now, we've not heard from the National Assembly. The National Assembly represents Nigerians.
Whether they were also consulted?
Whether they also consulted.
That was where the minister said he's not.
The minister said she's not aware. So the National Assembly did not make any categorical statement whether they reject it or they support it. They only trying to ask the minister if she's aware. But Amechi, there's also a dimension. Sheikh Gumi has been talking that this policy is not right. that since some persons say they want you to check kidnappers demanding for ransom, that the kidnappers can also demand for ransom in dollars. So are we looking at a dollarization of the economy?
Yes.
Because that was what happened before 2015 election when they said the Jonathan government had dollarized the economy.
A rush for dollar. That's why it's rising in the market.
So, but it's going to be deadly because some persons are projecting 1,000 naira a dollar to rise, and that is criminal. And that is
you definitely expect so that with the rush to change the naira, even those things.
Should it be a rushed situation?
There's a deadline to it, Amechi. And
is the deadline
there are some persons.
There are deadlines to it.
There are persons who have come up to say, look, some other persons have approached them to say, okay, can you help me dispose of this? Can you help me dispose of this amount of naira, that they've started, and all of that. There are so many of such stories, whether they are true or not, there are so many of such stories. So it's expected. Talking about the mechanism, let's even look at the issue of security. When the terror alert issue came in, what was the reaction? DSS was saying something, the police was saying something, the Minister of Information and Culture was saying another thing. In fact, the same police that were doing drill and all of that, the IGP was in Asaba and was saying something else. So
coordination.
Another Jonathan, that problem came up and they resolved it. They formed a consultative security architecture, and no individual security and was giving out information. It was a joint briefing where the spokespersons or heads of all these agencies will be available. They will put heads together
and only one
dish out
person
what is right and needed to be dished out. So that is that's how systems function. That's how a government functions. The president is meeting with security chiefs this morning.
Yes.
Now, before he takes any decision on this terror threat, he would have consulted all of them. They are not going to give him any approval. He only consult. What I have learned about consultation, in my adult life, there are some people that have consulted me who ordinarily do not have any need to consult me, who know much more than I do. But that little they believe I know. The more you consult, if I consult Abu before I take any decision, I've tapped into his brain. Two heads are better than one.
Right.
There are some advantages I'll take. If I consult Abu Teve, I'm borrowing into your brain. So consultation does not make you a weak leader. Rather, it reinforces you and puts you in a state to take the best decision.
But on this naira, before we continue,
we'll have to go.
quickly.